Hi everyone, Jess from Erudite here. Today I want to talk a little bit about GTM and how we can use it to make technical SEO changes to our site. GTM is a tool that allows us to inject code into our website without actually touching the website code itself. It's usually used for tracking tags like Google Analytics tags or Facebook pixels, but we can also use it to make technical SEO changes like adding canonical tags, hreflang tags, or even structured data markup.
So why might we use GTM to make technical SEO changes rather than making them directly on site? Firstly, it allows you to deploy changes to your site without relying on your developer, which is a really efficient way of working. This makes it an ideal solution for testing changes on a small area of your site before you ask your developer to roll it out across the whole thing. Or it means we can deploy changes site-wide without using a developer at all, which is great if we're tight on resource or we need a stopgap solution until resource becomes available. At this point, you may be thinking, why would I use a developer at all to make these changes if I can just do it myself with GTM? Which is a good question. Because GTM is a third-party tool that adds code to your site, search engines may take longer to index the content, and it may index less reliably than if you added the code directly to your site. This can also mean it slows your sites down, although this does depend a lot on your implementation. Finally, while you don't need a developer to implement these changes with GTM, you will still need some technical know-how.
So really, using GTM to make your technical SEO changes is all about compromise. If you have the capability or the resource to implement your changes directly on your site, that's probably going to be your most robust option. However, if you're a bit short on resource or you want to prove a concept first, GTM can be great. So let's jump into a practical example.
The example I'm going to share today is how to add a canonical tag. In this case, I'm going to be working on the Erudite blog homepage. As you can see, we have all these different filters, which add these parameters to the URL. Without a canonical tag, search engines would consider all of these variants duplicates of the same page, which isn't good news from an SEO point of view. This is also really useful for large e-commerce or directory sites that use faceted navigation. Before you start any work in GTM, I'd advise you create a new workspace. This allows you to play around and test your work without interfering with any unpublished changes on the default workspace, and it also allows you to revert changes much more easily. So let's just jump in here, give it a descriptive name. And now we can play around in our test workspace without any danger of making changes to our default. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create variables for each part of the canonical tag. So that's going to be the protocol, the domain, and the path. To do that, jump into the variables tab and then hit new. And we're going to start with the protocol. So let's give it a descriptive name that we're going to remember later. And we're going to set this to a URL type. And under component type, we are going to choose protocol and save. We're going to repeat this for the domain and the path as well. You can use hostname as the component type for this. This is important. You'll notice that we don't use the www. Our www versions all redirect to the non-www. So I'm going to tick this box that says strip www. If you do include the www as your preferred URL variant, don't tick this. And we're going to repeat it one more time for the path. Great. And remember that the path doesn't include the parameters, so that means that it's going to only include the /insights bit that we want in our canonical tag. Great. And the final variable we're going to create is the actual canonical tag itself. by stringing together those three variables that we've just created. So here we're not going to choose URL. We're going to make this into a constant. And our value is going to be the names of our three variables that we just created in curly brackets. After protocol, you will need to add the : / because it just includes HTTP or HTTPS. Great, and we're going to save that. Fab. So the next thing we're going to do is use that to create a tag. So go into the Tags tab over here on the left and then hit New. Give it a descriptive name you'll remember later. And under Tag Type, we're going to use the Custom HTML. So just jump over into this Tags tab on the left-hand side here and then hit New. Give it a name that you're going to remember. And in tag configuration, you're going to choose Custom HTML. We can't just paste HTML in here. We need a piece of JavaScript that's going to populate the tag for us. It's worth noting in here, if you haven't used the tag name canonical, then you're going to need to update this to reference the actual tag name. The next thing we want to do is create a trigger. So in this case, I only want this canonical tag to trigger on the Insights pages or the filtered versions with parameters. So we're going to create a trigger Insights page view. I'm going to create a page view trigger type and some page views. And here we want the URL, page URL contains /insights. The reason I've included this question mark here is because all of our blog posts also live under Insights. So if you have other pages that live in this subdirectory and you're trying to strip out parameters, make sure that you include that question mark. Otherwise, all of these pages are going to have a /insights canonical tag, which isn't what we want. And then hit save. And save again. Great. There it is. So the next thing we want to do is we want to preview this to check it's firing correctly and as we expect. So if we jump into preview mode, we can use the test URL like this one and hit start. And this is going to open a couple of new windows for us. The Tag Assistant and the Insights page in preview mode. So the first thing we can see is that the canonical tag was fired on this page, which is a good thing. What we want to do next is check that it's appearing exactly as we want it to. Now we're happy that our canonical tag is appearing on our pages as we'd hoped. The last thing to do is to publish our container, just by using the submit button here.
So there we have it. Google Tag Manager is a great way to implement fixes or to test concepts before putting them into production. By using variables to create tags in this way, the only real limit is your imagination. Structured data, hreflang and canonicals are just a few examples.